Your vote, your voice. Welcome to democracy. Congratulations, you're old enough to vote. This is a big deal. Your vote is your voice in our democracy. It's how you help decide who leads our country. Every vote matters, and we need you to be a part of it. But voting in the United States can seem a little confusing. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down for you. We're going to talk about something called the Electoral College. The Electoral College is a group of people who officially elect the President and Vice President of the United States. Think of it like a big decision-making team. Each state gets a certain number of electors on this team. It's not a popularity contest where the candidate with the most individual votes automatically wins. In the next few sections, we'll explore how this system works, why it was created, and whether it's still a fair way to elect our leaders. Get ready to learn. Your vote is your power, so let's understand how to use it. Okay, let's dive into this thing called the Electoral College. Imagine a big election map of the United States. Each state is like its own mini-election. When you cast your vote for president, you're actually voting for a group of people called electors who have pledged to support your chosen candidate. These electors are chosen by their political parties, and they're supposed to represent the will of the people in their state. Each state gets a specific number of electors based on its population size. States with more people get more electors. It's like a weighted system. Think of it like a game. The candidate who wins the popular vote in a state usually gets all of that state's electoral votes. It's like winning all the points for that round. The first candidate to reach a certain number of electoral votes wins the whole game, the presidency. Let's follow your vote on its journey. You go to the polls and cast your vote for president. Your vote is counted along with everyone else's in your state. This is the popular vote. The candidate who gets the most votes in your state usually wins all of that state's electoral votes. It's kind of like a winner-take-all system in most states. This is where it gets interesting. The number of electoral votes a state gets is based on the total number of senators and representatives it has in Congress. Since every state has 2 senators and at least 1 representative, even states with smaller populations get a voice in the Electoral College. Remember those electors we talked about? Once the popular vote is counted in each state, the winning candidate's electors meet in their state capitals to officially cast their votes for president. These votes are then sent to Congress to be counted. There are a total of 538 electoral votes up for grabs in a presidential election. Why 538? Well, it's based on the total number of members in Congress, 435 representatives plus 100 senators, plus 3 electors for Washington, D.C. To become president, a candidate needs to win at least 270 electoral votes, which is more than half. It's like reaching the finish line first in this electoral race. This magic number ensures that the winning candidate has broad support across the country. But here's where it can get a little tricky. Because of the way electoral votes are distributed, it's possible for a candidate to win the presidency without winning the most individual votes nationwide, the popular vote. This has happened a few times in U.S. history and has sparked a lot of debate. Section 5, History Lesson, Why the Founding Fathers Chose This Path. So, why did the Founding Fathers create this system in the first place? Back in the 1700s, they had some big concerns about direct democracy. They worried that states with large populations would have too much power, and that smaller states would be ignored. They also worried about the influence of factions or special interest groups. They wanted a system that balanced the interests of different states and regions and encouraged candidates to build broad support. They believed the Electoral College would help ensure that the president had support from across the country, not just concentrated in a few heavily populated areas. Keep in mind that travel and communication were much slower back then. It was harder to get information about candidates to voters. The Founding Fathers thought that electors chosen for their wisdom and knowledge could help make informed decisions. Section 6, Fair or not fair? That is the question. Now, the Electoral College isn't without its critics. Some people argue that it's outdated and undemocratic. They believe that the president should be chosen based on who gets the most individual votes, the popular vote. They point to the few times in history when the winner of the popular vote didn't win the presidency. Others argue that the Electoral College is still important today. They say it protects the interests of smaller states and prevents candidates from focusing all their attention on just a few large cities or states. They believe it forces candidates to build broader support and consider the needs of a more diverse electorate. The debate over the Electoral College is complex. There are strong arguments on both sides. It's important to understand the history, the arguments, and the potential consequences of changing or keeping the system as it is. Section 7, Small States, Big Voices, the Electoral College's Balancing Act. One of the main arguments in favor of the Electoral College is that it gives a voice to smaller states. Imagine if the election was decided purely on the popular vote. Candidates might only focus on campaigning in big cities and states where they could win the most votes. Smaller states, especially those with more rural populations, might be ignored. The Electoral College forces candidates to pay attention to all states, big or small. It helps ensure that the concerns and interests of people in less populated areas are also considered. This system encourages candidates to build broader coalitions and address the needs of a more diverse electorate. It's about finding a balance between representing the will of the majority while also ensuring that the voices of smaller states are heard. Section 8, the People's Choice versus Electoral College. Can they disagree? Yes, it's actually possible for a candidate to win the presidency without winning the popular vote. This has happened a few times in US history, most recently in 2016. When this happens, it raises a lot of questions about fairness and whether the Electoral College is still the best way to choose our president. Those who support the Electoral College argue that it's working as intended, even when the popular vote winner doesn't win the presidency. They say it's more important to win the electoral map by securing enough states to reach 270 electoral votes. Critics argue that it undermines the principle of one person, one vote. They believe the president should be the candidate who wins the most votes nationwide. The debate over the Electoral College is likely to continue, especially if we see more elections where the popular vote and the electoral vote don't align. Section 9. Your turn to shape the future. Get informed and get involved. Now that you understand the Electoral College, it's time to get involved. Your vote is your voice. It's how you contribute to our democracy and help shape the future of our country. Don't take this responsibility lightly. Register to vote as soon as you're eligible. Learn about the candidates and their positions on issues that matter to you. Talk to your friends and family about the importance of voting. The Electoral College is just one part of our complex electoral system. By understanding how it works and why it was created, you can participate in the process more informed. Your voice matters. Get out there and make it heard.